This article is about the protected characteristics legislation of 2010. And the protected characteristics are age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage, pregnancy, race, religion, sex, and sexual orientation. And the attempt was to use an umbrella piece of legislation to cover equality for all these particular areas. Whereas the recent Supreme Court judgment showed, there are ambiguities between these areas, and I always questioned at the outset whether it was wise to lump together things which have, in a sense, very different characteristics. It would be much better to have bespoke legislation for each one of these that reflected these complexities. So why did this legislation get published in the way it did? What's the common feature in all these things, or almost all of them? Well, one of the common features is the concept of critical theory that says there are a group of people who have been oppressed historically by another group that has been the oppressor. And critical theory has dominated the academic world for a number of years and would seem to be the common denominator for the vast majority of these protected characteristics. And if that is the case, then that is really unfortunate, because critical theory is itself a highly contentious way of seeing the world, and one which is really quite destructive to social cohesion, because it creates competing groups of people. To try and find a way of having true tolerance, which allows for a diversity of opinions and allows for the recognition that on some of these issues, different groups will have very different points of view and wouldn't necessarily agree with the current society's position. To have real tolerance is going to take something far more sophisticated than the current legislation, and a recognition that different religious groups will have different views on some of these issues, just as women will have a view on the issue of gender assignment. And it's this fact that I think has been missed from the legislation, and not enough has been done to meet those real needs. In some ways, much of the legislation designed for tolerance has actually been surprisingly intolerant. Tolerance is a much more sophisticated concept. I think it was Voltaire that said, I will defend to the death your right to an opinion that I actually disagree with. Now, that's real tolerance. That's not the type of tolerance we tend to see happening today. So, as I say, I think this article is just a general discussion of a piece of legislation that I think has had quite serious consequences and I don't think was properly thought through.